Hello everybody and welcome back to Unraveling Autism. In this episode we're going to be asking the question, should you send your autistic child to a preschool? And we'll be looking at some of the pros and cons around preschools. When I say preschools, I'm referring to the schools that cater for children in the early childhood development phase, and this is before they enter elementary or primary school. Preschool is an important step. A child moves from being at home and under the constant supervision of a carer or a parent into the big world, and part of which is school. And in school, a child encounters teachers, other children, and gets to participate in a structured routine and group activities, and he begins to learn many new skills. Let's look at what happens at regular preschools. Firstly, they have a fixed routine, part of which is meal time, snack time, then also time to play outside and maybe even nap time. There's a lot of group activities such as circle time, story time, show and tell, indoor and outdoor games, for example, Simon Says, hide and seek, then also a lot of songs and rhymes. Then gross motor skills, for example, obstacle courses, skipping, jungle gym, and any other physical activities, where children learn to be physically active and to use their bodies in many different ways. Then fine motor skills such as cutting, drawing, pasting, threading, all of which are quite important sort of pre-skills for when a child is then going to go to elementary school and learn to write. Then school events such as school plays and concerts and sports days. Self-care is also quite important in preschool. Children will do things such as washing hands and faces, take care of their possessions such as bags and shoes. And also, pack away their lunch boxes. So if you look at these activities, they do tend to address many areas of development, and that includes cognitive development, social and emotional development, and just many other areas of growth. As parents, we do want our children to participate in social institutions, and of course one of these institutions is preschool. But the question is, to what extent will a child with autism benefit by and learn in this kind of environment? If you look at neurotypical children, they will tend to, before they get to preschool, be able to communicate, play, and socialize in varying degrees. And these abilities will allow them to adjust and to learn in a preschool environment. Whereas then if you compare neurotypical children to autistic children, many autistic children will enter preschool being nonverbal or having limited verbal abilities. They will also be limited in their ability to play or to cope with group activities and structured learning. Some autistic children experience anxiety, and even those who are high functioning and fluent communicators will still tend to struggle when they interact with their peers or teachers. So the experience of autistic children in preschool is obviously going to be different to the experience of their neurotypical peers. And autistic children will face various challenges in a preschool environment, which tends to be the case in most environments that they enter into. Let's look at some of the factors that I suggest you consider when you visit a preschool and are trying to decide whether or not to enroll your child in that school. Firstly, the school itself. Is it an inclusive facility? Does it currently have children with special needs or autistic learners? Also, does it have a history and practice of catering for children with special needs? Then the teachers at the school. Do the teachers have experience in caring for and teaching children with special needs? Do they have skills or qualifications relating to the to the education of autistic children? What are the values of the school and the approach of its teachers? Is there a commitment to accommodating children with autism? Or do you get the feeling when speaking to them that they are reluctant, unsure, or negative about the prospect of having an autistic child enrolled at their school? And if this is the case, then this might be a red flag for you. Then how does the school teach new skills? the way in which they teach and approach their children is very important when you're looking at suitability for an autistic child. This is because children with autism need very clear step-by-step demonstration when something is taught to them, and they also need have more of a reliance on visuals rather than verbal explanations, because verbal explanations obviously involve language, and language of course is a disability for children with autism. Then as part of their their teaching, their learning process, autistic children also need many opportunities to practice a skill in order to learn it and to master it. And because they need this kind of repetition and constant guidance, teachers will have to be patient, kind, but also quite firm and methodical in their teaching. Do the teachers at the school have a grasp of autism? Do they understand its core deficits? Are they able and willing to cope with challenges that relate to the disability? For example, difficulties with group participation, sensory difficulties, anxiety, meltdowns, difficulties with understanding and following instructions. Is the school able and willing to devise a practical yet flexible plan that will allow your child to participate and learn at their own pace? What is the size of the class? A class of 4 to 5 children is an advantage, whereas in a class of 10 to 12 children, an autistic child may experience various problems. Is there an aide in the class, an assistant that will help your child as and when needed? Some schools do have an in-house therapist or a therapist who visits the school to do therapy sessions with children at the school. This could be speech therapy or occupational therapy or some other kind of therapy, for example, pet therapy. This is a good option for you, this type of school, because if you would like your child to go to a preschool but still have the benefit of regular therapy sessions while at school, then this would be taken care of at such a school. Then you also find that there are centers that will develop special programs for autistic children to stimulate communication and to help them to regulate their behaviors. An example of such a program is an ABA program, also known as Applied Behavior Analysis Program. These centers are not preschools and their programs are quite intensive. However, they are an alternative to traditional preschools, and they provide therapy in accordance with a program that seeks to address key aspects of the autism disability. So let's assume that you've enrolled your child at a preschool. Let's look at some of the challenges that you might encounter while your child is there. Regular preschools offer a range of activities and they provide the benefits of group participation. However, they usually don't incorporate programs to help children with autism to communicate or to communicate more effectively. They don't provide specific language programs in this regard. So autistic children can learn many new skills at a regular preschool, and they can make much progress while they are there, but they will still have significant challenges when it comes to their ability to communicate and to interact socially. And this is the dilemma that parents face when it comes to mainstream environments. Autistic children will learn in a mainstream environment, but they will continue to lag behind their peers in areas that relate to their disability. Some preschools might accept a child, but then do very little to support or teach that child. The child is cared for and is physically present at the school, but doesn't learn or participate much, and so will not make progress. In some schools where autism as a disability is not fully grasped or accommodated, you might even find teachers expecting or demanding that children with autism speak, comply, listen, complete tasks in the same way that the other children do. And when a child is not able to do so, the child is then regarded as a problem, one that the school is better off without. And though it is not reasonable or fair to expect a child with autism to meet standards that do not match his capabilities, that in fact relate to his disability, and this in a place where teaching methods are not being meaningfully adjusted to cater for his needs, and especially if he is nonverbal or has limited verbal abilities, it still happens in this kind of scenario that parents are called in and maybe asked to find an alternative or suitable environment for their child. So this is why it is important to choose carefully and to ensure that that the school is committed to the responsibility of teaching and supporting your child. Communication is a fundamental human right. Article 21 of the 2006 UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities confirms that the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information with others is such right. And the right is therefore not just for people who communicate using the dominant forms of communication, but it is for everyone, including those with disabilities, and is regardless of their particular level of understanding or the type of communication that they will need to acquire. So what does this mean? Our duty as parents when it comes to our children with disabilities, even when they are little, is to help them to acquire a method of communication. This can be done inside or outside of schools or learning centers or even at home using special programs and with the help of therapists. But we cannot assume that regular schools will take care of this responsibility because most regular schools are not geared towards teaching a system of communication to a child who has autism. We will have to ascertain whether the school is able to do this and also then whether we see it as an important learning goal for our child. Communication can happen in various ways. It's not just verbal. It can be verbal communication, but it can also be sign language, or it can be a system of visual communication such as PICs, or it could be the use of an alternative communication device, many of which are available now on the market, which will allow a non-verbal or a partially verbal child to communicate with others. When Akila was at preschool, we realized that she needed additional help to be able to communicate. In spite of the benefits of attending various preschools and having speech therapy, she was still experiencing significant language delays. So we found a trained person to create a program that would teach her to communicate and help her to learn new skills. This program was done in the afternoons after preschool with the help of a psychology student who received training that we financed. The program was based on verbal behavior, which is a derivative of ABA. On this program, Akila's quality of life improved significantly once she was able to communicate more and functionally. And this is why I say that we often fail to grasp how hard it is for a child with a language disability to live in a world where virtually everything is based on communication and social interaction.
Hi, hello, my name is Akila Chetty and everyone calls me Akips and Akils. I have autism and I have problems with conversation and I become so anxious at times. Since I was a toddler, I went to my first play school from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and I spent the whole day there. When I arrived at school, Dad carried me to Trishy, and Trishy came up to me and said hello to me by carrying me. At 1 p.m., I was eating pasta, mac, and cheese. When it was a sunny day, I used to run on those baby bikes with another child by playing car races. With my own eyes I saw Trishy's cute dogs. She had a German Shepherd and a Dachshund. I grabbed a bite of yogurt at snack time. Trishy read to us all of the kiddies' books with the other children.
Press the red button.
Then I went to a center in Johannesburg in 2006. When I arrived before 7 a.m., I played with Doe. I started off by sitting on the carpet and said good morning. When the weather began to become more clear, I was playing on the slides, and at first break we ate sandwiches. After second break we had lunchtime with our own lunch boxes. After 12 p.m. Dad took me to the car. In 2007, my dad dropped me off at 7 a.m. at a new preschool. I was playing in the playground before we started school. Then we sat on the carpet and gathered around in our seats to do some activities. During second break, we ate lunch and we blew bubbles. And I was also doing sponge painting, and we also threaded beads to make jewelry. I began grade R in January 2008. We began to sit on the carpet, and after that we cut it in. I ate oats, and I also played with my friend who also has autism. When it was second break, we had our own lunch boxes, and I had to eat my own lunch. At 12:30, Dad came to pick me up. My therapist Carla came with me every Thursday, and I went home with her every second break. I enjoyed going to all these preschools because I did lots of fun activities, such as painting and playing with dough and blowing bubbles. And I also liked to be in the classes with other kids and to play outside.
So looking back on our experiences of various preschools and education centers, I can definitely say that Akira learnt a lot in every preschool that she attended. But you will notice that from her recollection of being at different preschools, that they tend all to have similar routines and similar types of activities. She also benefited socially by being in group settings and by learning to some extent to interact with other children and to regulate her own behavior. In spite of her disability, she continued to be part of the social world that is found in a school, and this was preferable to her being socially isolated. However, the preschools we chose did not have programs in place to cater for the communication needs of an autistic preschooler, even though in one of these centers, speech therapy was provided weekly. This was the reason why we found an additional program that would help her to communicate more effectively. I would say that any decision you make regarding preschool depends on what you want for your child. If you want a program that seeks to address the core deficits of autism, then a regular preschool is unlikely to meet this expectation. You would then need to find a special school or center or engage the services of a therapist to develop a program that will help your child to improve his communication skills and to better manage his own behavior. In other words, the focus in such a situation will not be on the usual preschool routines and activities. It will be on trying to address the core deficits of autism. On the other hand, if what you want is simply for your child to participate in the social construct of a regular preschool environment, subject to his own abilities, then find a school that appreciates the responsibility of accepting an autistic child and is willing and able to cater for and support him in this regard. And this, of course, needs not be a special school. It could be a regular preschool. Remember that at some point in your journey, and preferably sooner rather than later, your child will need to be equipped in some way to communicate with others in functional ways. And autistic children who are fluent communicators, on the other hand, then do need sufficient opportunities to converse, play, and interact socially with others. Thank you for listening. I wish you all the best in the choices you make to best support your child.